Good evening. I'm Rohit Sharma and welcome to Desi from DC, coming to you every night from heart of Washington. From Capitol Hill to Raisina Hill, we connect the dots between what happens here in Washington and how it echoes back home in India. We begin tonight with the big stories of the day. Sergio Gor sworn in as U.S. ambassador to India. What lies ahead for bilateral ties? Trump hosts Syria's rebel-turned-president at White House. Middle East shakeup underway. U.S. Senate advances bill to end 40-day shutdown. Democrats slam deal as betrayal. U.S. Supreme Court upholds same-sex marriage. Challenge tossed. Rights secured. Deadly Delhi blast. Latest updates and probe into explosion near the Red Fort. An FBI chief visits China to tackle fentanyl crisis. Secret talks reported. President Donald Trump personally presided over the swearing-in of Sergio Gor as the next U.S. ambassador to India, a move that signaled the highest priority for bilateral ties. Gore, one of Trump's most trusted aides and now a special envoy for South and Central Asian affairs, has called India a strategic partner whose role will shape regional stability, trade, and security for years to come. A significant diplomatic move in Washington today as Sergio Gor was sworn in as the new U.S. ambassador to India. The ceremony, presided over by President Trump, underscored the importance of this appointment at a very crucial juncture between the India and U.S. relationship.
But now I'm trusting Sergio to help strengthen one of our country's most important international relationships, and that's the strategic partnership with the Republic of India. It's a big deal. India is home to one of the world's oldest civilizations, the largest country in the world, actually. And it's got over 1.5 billion people. And we have a fantastic relationship with the Prime Minister, Modi.
But Gore's new position is much more than a standard diplomatic posting. In an unprecedented move, he will also serve as the U.S. Special Envoy for South and Central Asian affairs. The dual-hatted role is a major policy signal. It effectively centralizes U.S. strategy for the entire region, from India and its rival Pakistan to Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Central Asian states, just under one person. And that person is Sergio Gor, the almost 39-year-old political operative and one of President Trump's closest and most trusted aide. Gor is not a career diplomat, and he previously served as director of the White House Presidential Personal Office and is the co-founder of a publishing company with Donald Trump Jr. The sources say that his appointment is designed to send a clear message that the U.S. wants a trusted loyalist with a direct line to the Oval Office, handling its most sensitive and high-stake negotiations in Asia. This comes amid ongoing trade friction, with the U.S. pressuring India on tariffs and its continued purchase of Russian oil. The new structure, however, is raising alarms in New Delhi. For decades, India has strongly resisted what it calls hyphenation of its relationship with Washington, lumping it together with its neighbor Pakistan, and this new combined role is seen by some in the Indian establishment as a political return to that of the Cold War era. As Ambassador Gore heads to New Delhi, he carries a mandate far larger than any of his predecessors. His success will be measured not only in managing the U.S.-India relationship and where it is right now, but it also executing a unified agenda of the White House across one of the world's most important relationships that is going through a volatile time currently.
Please repeat after me. I, Sergio Gor,
I, Sergio Gor,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help you God?
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Ambassador.
Good evening and welcome to a very, very special report right here from Washington, DC. I'm Rohit Sharma and I'm at Kennedy Center. Behind me is a lot of important people from Washington, DC. I'm standing right here at Kennedy Center and I'm at the reception of the newly sworn in the U.S. ambassador to India, Mr. Sergio Gor, and he is greeting the who's who of Washington, D.C. right here at the Kennedy Center. You could see a lot of important people in this room. Some of them, you only seen them at the Oval. Pam Bondi is here. We also saw Senator Carrie Lake, who's made her way down. The U.S. Secretary of Energy is here. The USCS Director is a lot of important people coming down right here at the Kennedy Center. We might even get a chance to speak with Mr. Sergio Gor, who was just sworn in at the Oval Office. Now, at the Oval Office, you know, President Trump called this a very important appointment. He said it's a very important relationship, 1.5 billion people. He also talked about reducing tariffs on India and also talked about how special Prime Minister Narendra Modi is. And we, India, today have been given this exclusive access that no other media has to be at the reception of Ambassador Sergio Gor. This is Rohit Sharma for India Today. You'd also see Peter Navarro. I mean, he is also present in this room. He obviously has had a lot of strong views about both India and the U.S. and the relationship in itself. Secretary Kennedy right there, and Peter Navarro both shaking hands, possibly talking about some of the important issues that the administration has been dealing with. Also back there, you see the USCIS chairperson, Secretary Adlo, joining in the conversation with Pete Navarro and Mr. Kennedy at the farewell of Ambassador Sergio Gor.
I want to thank everybody for coming here. Rick, thank you for organizing this at the beautiful Kennedy Center. Stay tuned. I think you're going to see some announcements on the Kennedy Center in the next few weeks. We've done an amazing job. The president got an incredible amount of funding in a big, beautiful bill. And so it's a spectacular place. We're going to continue revamping it. Thank you all for coming here. From the bottom of my heart, it's been an incredible year. The president got elected over a year ago. Imagine what he will do over the next 3 years. Mm-hmm. But he's only able to do that with an incredible team, which is this room. Thank you.
Party of Ambassador Sergio Gor right here at Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. And we witnessed, pretty much everybody from President Trump's cabinet come out to show how important Sergio Gor is and also talk about how important this position is of Ambassador of India. Secretary Marco Rubio was here. Secretary Doug Burgum, USAID Secretary Pam Bondi, Secretary of Health Bobby Kennedy, you name it, and everybody from the President Trump's cabinet was there. I mean, Sergio Gor did talk about the president still working and he couldn't make it, and J.D. Vance also, Vice President J.D. Vance also had another commitment, but everybody from President Trump's cabinet was here, alluding to the fact that this is an important position. Secretary Marco Rubio talked about it. He talked about how Sergio Gor, is a very important person, and he would be the person that would actually take this relationship to the next level. Also saying that the Prime Minister of India, in fact, India is just one phone call away from talking to the President of the United States with Sergio Gor in such an important position. And Sergio Gor, when he talked about how when he visited India, New Delhi last month, he was actually pulled aside by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in that meeting, and Sergio Gor was told by the Prime Minister that Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has never criticized the President of the United States. And Sergio Gor said that's an important thing, that's an important message, and that message was delivered to President Trump. And President Trump values that friendship, and he values the loyalty, so to say, that India has towards the United States. So a very important step in the right direction. Sergio Gor will be heading to India. This is Rohit Sharma for India Today. You were in India last month. You met with a lot of people. You also met with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. How was that interaction?
It was incredible. I'd been to India before, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, and loved visiting India back then as a tourist. And now coming back as our ambassador was absolutely incredible. And there's a reason they call it Incredible India. Meeting with the Prime Minister and his hospitality was amazing. So I'm very much looking forward to being there very early in January.
you're also going as an envoy to all of the regions. You'll be based in New Delhi. How do you see this role for you?
Look, I think the president pointed out correctly that for too long in previous administration, this area of the world did not get the attention that it deserves. And so one of the things the president wants to do is to make sure they have a direct line to the White House. And so India will be my home. And however, the surrounding neighbors, I just came back from Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, that area is vitally important, not just to us, but to the world. And so we want to make sure that they get the attention that they deserve to.
Historic diplomacy was underway as US President Donald Trump today hosted Syrian President Ahmed Shara at the White House, the first ever visit by a Syrian head of state. This meeting, which was held today, marked a dramatic shift in Syria's international standing and highlighted a potential realignment in Middle East geopolitics. Just 6 months after their first meeting in Saudi Arabia, Shara, a former rebel-turned-president, arrived in Washington amid stunning rise from an insurgent leader to an internationally recognized so-called statesman. Once linked to Al-Qaeda, Shara's past includes years in U.S. custody, serving sentence in Guantanamo Bay, but in recent years, he broke ties with extremist groups and consolidated power in northwest Syria. Now, Syria is pivoting away from traditional allies like Iran and Russia towards Turkey, the Gulf, and the closer ties with Washington are absolutely needed. Security will be a top focus, including discussion on Syria joining the US-led coalition against the Islamic State. The Trump administration is also brokering potential security talks between Syria and Israel, signaling a new chapter in counterterrorism cooperation. A historic moment for Syria, Washington, and the Middle East, and one that could define and redefine alliances for decades to come. Why did Syria's interim president use the front door? Well, Ahmed al-Shara arrived at the White House through a side entrance on West Executive Avenue, bypassing the ceremonial driveway reserved for foreign leaders. The protocol choice speaks volumes about his unconfirmed status. So the question now will this meeting legitimize his leadership and reshape Syria's future? To know more, here's a report by Devangana Datta.
A side door, not the front entrance. That tells you everything. Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara arrived at the White House on Monday through the West Executive Avenue, a side entrance adjacent to the main building. No flags lining the driveway, no cameras capturing the handshake at the door, no fanfare. This was not an insult, it was protocol. Foreign leaders, recognized heads of state, enter through the West Wing driveway, the ceremonial entrance reserved for official visits. Al-Shara did not get that because he's Syria's interim president, not yet fully recognized under international protocol. But what happened inside the Oval Office matters far more than which door he used. For the first time since Syria's independence in 1946, a Syrian leader met with an American president in the White House. The closed-door talks focused on strengthening bilateral ties, regional security cooperation, and Syria's expected entry into the US-led coalition against ISIS. The results were immediate. Minutes after the meeting ended, the US Treasury announced a 180-day extension of Caesar Act sanctions relief. The Caesar Act, imposed in 2019 over human rights abuses under Assad, had imposed sweeping sanctions that crippled Syria's economy and cut the country off from global markets. Lifting them is essential for Syria's reconstruction, estimated at over $200 billion. Trump praised al-Shara afterwards, calling him a tough guy from a tough place.
I've had an agreement with him. He's a very strong leader. He comes from a very tough place, and he's a tough guy. I liked him. I get along with him, the new president of Syria. And we'll do everything we can to make Syria successful, because that's part of the Middle East. We have peace now in the Middle East, first time that anyone can remember that ever happening. Syria is a very big part of the Middle East, very important part. If you look back at Syria for years, they had the doctors, the lawyers, they had so many of the great intellects. It's an amazing place with great people. and we want to see Syria be successful along with the rest of the Middle East. So I have confidence that he'll be able to do the job, absolutely.
But there's more at play here. Syria's warming ties with Washington could signal a broader realignment in West Asia, potentially expanding the Abraham Accords framework that normalized relations between Israel and the Arab states. This is a stunning transformation. Less than a year ago, al-Shara had a $10 million US bounty on his head. He was designated a global terrorist with ties to Al-Qaeda. He spent time in US prisons in Iraq. Now he's sitting in the Oval Office, having broken from Al-Qaeda in 2016 and reinvented himself as Syria's moderate leader after toppling Bashar al-Assad last December. The side door was protocol, the Oval Office meeting was strategy. Syria is realigning, away from Iran and Russia towards Turkey, the Gulf and Washington. As al-Shara left, he stepped out of his motorcade to greet cheering supporters waving Syrian flags. The message: Syria's decades of isolation are ending, and America is betting on the former militant they once hunted. With Debagna Datta, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
The US Senate has taken a major step to end 40-day government shutdown, passing a key procedural measure by 60 to 40. But the move is already stirring controversy, with top Democrats calling it a betrayal of party priorities. The measure, advanced by a coalition of moderate Democrats, Republicans, and the White House, will prevent federal agencies from laying off employees until January 30th. It also provides payback for federal workers, including military personnel, air traffic controllers, and border patrol agents. The vote comes amid growing tension over healthcare subsidies under the Affordable Care Act, a key sticking point for Democrats. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer opposed the measure, saying it failed to protect healthcare programs, while Independent Senator Bernie Sanders called the compromise a horrific mistake. Critics argue the deal favors short-term government funding at the cost of long-term protections for Americans relying on ACA subsidies. Republican leaders plan to amend the bill with a full-year funding package offering temporary measures through January 2026. The measure will face procedural hurdles, moving to the House and then to President Trump for his final approval. The clock is ticking and Congress is racing to end the shutdown, while Americans watch closely, especially on healthcare and federal pay. After 40 days of the longest government shutdown in US history, the Senate has cleared a key step toward reopening federal operation, sending markets surging and investor optimism rising. Tonight, we break down the impact on markets, federal employees, and everyday Americans, and explain why, even as the lights come back on in Washington, the real economic test may just be the beginning.
After 40 days of gridlock, the longest government shutdown in US history is finally inching towards a resolution. A deal aimed at ending the shutdown has cleared its first big hurdle in the Senate, with a handful of Democrats joining Republicans to vote in favor of a compromise bill that would fund government operations until the end of January. Negotiated between Senate Majority Leader John Thune, the White House, and centrist Democrats, the agreement includes funding for key agencies such as Veterans Affairs and Agriculture, as well as a continuation of food assistance under the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program until next September. But this deal still faces multiple steps, including approval from the House of Representatives and the President's signature before federal employees can return to work and suspended services resume. Around 1.4 million federal employees have been affected, with services ranging from air travel to food benefits disrupted. The shutdown's ripple effects have deepened over time. Thousands of flight cancellations, delayed benefits for over 40 million low-income Americans, and an increasingly anxious labor market. From a macroeconomic lens, the reopening of government operations comes at a crucial time. The shutdown has stalled the release of key economic indicators, including that of labor market data that the Federal Reserve relies on to assess inflation and interest rate decisions. And that's the big challenge ahead. While optimism is high in financial markets, inflation pressures remain sticky. Several members of the Fed have warned that their priority continues to be taming stubbornly elevated prices, even as layoffs and weaker consumer sentiment raise fresh concerns about growth. Still, investors are greeting the potential end of the impasse with enthusiasm. US stock futures climbed sharply in early trading. In fact, the S&P 500 shot up nearly 0.7%, the Nasdaq rising 1.2%, and similar gains seen across Asia and Europe. Treasury yields edged higher, gold and silver prices surged, and Bitcoin too reflected renewed risk appetite. The reopening would also allow the Treasury to resume planned bond auctions, a key test of investor appetite for US debt amid what analysts call it a fragile liquidity backdrop. In short, the end of the shutdown may restore short-term stability, but it doesn't erase the underlying economic tension. Inflation remains elevated, fiscal pressures are mounting, and another funding deadline looms at the end of January. For now, markets are cheering the progress, but the real test for America's economy begins once the government switches the lights back on.
The U.S. Supreme Court has refused to overturn its landmark ruling that guarantees the constitutional right to same-sex marriage. The decision comes after weeks of speculation about whether the conservative-leaning court might roll back the decade-old precedent. The case drew national attention as advocates and opponents alike watched closely. For supporters of marriage equality, the court's refusal to hear the appeal is a major victory, a reaffirmation that same-sex couples across the United States can continue to marry without fear of a legal rollback. The original 2015 ruling, known as Obergefell versus Hodges, established the same-sex couples have a fundamental right to marry under the Constitution. Critics of the court's refusal warn that while this decision preserves current protection, the broader landscape of LGBTQ rights remain uncertain. Given the court's conservative majority and potential future challenges, this was an important ruling. For now, same-sex marriages remain safe across America, but the fight for equality continues on many fronts. And breaking news from New Delhi tonight, a massive blast tore through a Hyundai i20 near Gate 1 of Red Fort metro station, killing at least 8 people and leaving several others critically injured. The explosion occurred around 6:52 p.m. when the vehicle stopped at red light, sending shockwaves across the country. Victims of the blast were rushed to the Lok Nayak Jayaprakash Narayan Hospital, where Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta and Minister Ashish Sood visited to meet the injured. Security has been heightened across CISF installations, Delhi metro station, government buildings, and IGI airport, while Mumbai police have also stepped up vigilance. The U.S. Embassy in India issued an advisory for American citizens, urging them to avoid areas like Red Fort, Chandni Chowk, and other crowded areas, while also monitoring local media for updates. Authorities across multiple Indian states remain on high alert as investigations continue into the cause of the explosion. International leaders are expressing condolences, including Egyptian government, which extended sympathies to victims and families, wishing a swift recovery to the injured. This tragic blast near Delhi's Red Fort has sent the city into high alert. Stay tuned for live updates as authorities investigate these security measures intensify. And that wraps up tonight's edition of Desi from DC. This is Rohit Sharma for India Today Global. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button before you leave. Stay tuned, stay informed, and as always, stay curious.